Catherine Connolly.
First of all, Oireachtas, the Social Democrats has sucked on Rúnseo Corus Cornadala. I want to thank Deputy Whitmer and our colleagues for doing this. I tabled a question as far back as 19, having read the document, the government statement on the role of data centres in Ireland's enterprise strategy. And I welcome the opportunity to talk about it today, even though it's just under 4 minutes now. And I have never been as frightened, and I have to say he's an extremely lovely man, the TD who spoke following the Minister. But taking his speech and the Minister's speech and this policy, I'm frightened. I'm actually fearful that you either have no idea what you're talking about or that you're completely and utterly in the hands of the developers and in the hands of the developers who are leading the data centres, as confirmed by the Airgrid itself when they produced their report. Now, I say that reluctantly, but to accuse the Social Democrats, and I'm certainly not here to defend them, to accuse them of stopping the clock is so, it's sick actually in a sense, when the clock is going to be stopped by climate change. And so we declared an emergency when the children of this country stood on the streets, and we declared an emergency in May 19. That was less than a year after this government statement on the role of data centres in enterprise. And in case we're in any doubt, they were delighted to set out that the statement's ambition was to be the digital economy hotspot in Europe. We're going to be a hotspot, all right, I can tell you that. And then the government is amending planning process so that over a certain size will ignore the planning and become strategic things. So all set out here, there aren't enough thumbs on the government's hands to endorse this strategy. And then again, just before that, we had the policy and study of the benefits, and perhaps the deputy who spoke got some of his facts from this. But if he looked at the two and he did a word search, or just did it manually like I did, you might see that climate change isn't mentioned except in relation to the department. Climate change doesn't feature, water doesn't feature, and the unsustainability doesn't feature, nor the fact that the data centres are being utterly led by the developer. And there was a very good article earlier this year from a doctor. I've mislaid it someplace, but it's very good. And he talks about the feathery, I have difficulty with the word ethereal, but the feathery view of data centres and cloud as if they're up in the sky when they're very much down on the ground. And I don't think, the ordinary person, I don't like that phrase, but I don't think people actually know, because I didn't know until I read this policy as to what data centres were about, notwithstanding what happened in Galway, County Galway with Athenry. And so, as outlined by the Social Democrats, we have 70 in being and 30 more in the process. What is the magical figure, Minister? What is the magical figure? Where do we stop? Where do we begin to question? And where is the bigger debate on, do we need all of this data? Now, to accuse us of wanting to stop, or anybody here, I want a thriving Galway city. I want foreign direct investment. I also want indigenous industry. But I want an analysis of how we're going to have that and still meet our climate objectives. Now, we can't do that with the speech we got today, nor the contribution from the backbencher, because it's utter denial, and we have learned nothing except we're in hock to the big boys and indeed the big girls who are here. I've only 18 seconds left. I hope I get a chance later in the week, because there are many facts that I would like to go into, particularly in relation to the fact that it's been led by the developers, particularly in relation to the fact that the CRU, when he went to the committee in July, thought it was okay to continue on as is. He would seem to have changed his mind now. There are many. I'll stick to the time.